All right, get it focused. Click the links for Odyssey, BitChute. Thanks for recent subscribe star donations, or they get the Telegram and Gab. So, first of all, I'm glad Star Wars is over. I'm glad Hollywood is over, like, in total, all of it, all of Hollywood. Not just Disney, not just Star Wars, but I mean, all of Hollywood. I don't know if we can replace it. Probably not. It's a huge investment, but I'm just glad it's done. Star Wars, it was a great run. Hollywood, was a fun run. And it feels weird to say that, to look like you're talking about an entire industry. Yeah, but it's not just like, oh, they're going to have good movies and bad movies. No, but it means like, oh, how can you support an industry that does the things they do, that overlooks the abuses, the Epstein Weinstein type of stuff against women and children? It's like, yeah, they're cool with that. And the cuties type of stuff, and the Cartoon Network type of stuff. It's like, yeah, that's all loosely Hollywood. If you support part of it, you're supporting it. So even, it doesn't come out with some good new Spider-Man movie. Yeah, but it's all still part of Hollywood. So if you support it, you're supporting it. Why would you want to do that? Anyway, so I'm glad that aspects of it is over. It's a shame. George Lucas had something special. We probably owe him an apology for not being so turned on with his prequel movies. We thought when he sold it, we thought Disney was going to knock it out of the park. And then you saw those Disney movies, you're like, oh my gosh. We thought Lucas movies were a little bit childish. And you see Disney movies, like, oh, these aren't childish. They're just bad. They're just all kinds of bad. Anyway, so what has ruined part of Hollywood and celebrityhood and the status, the kind of concept behind that, is that you see these people on social media, and it feels like adults are forgetting how to be adults. Which is freaking weird. I mean, it's a very much a bad sign, and that's an understatement. People forgot that reasonable adults can disagree without being disagreeable, and that different people have diverse opinions. Where it used to be kind of I don't know what those, like, that, who's that book on manners? There's that book on manners we were reading as kids, where you were careful to speak to people and not come up with a statement like this, like, oh, team red is bad and team blue is good, and if you believe in one side and not the other, it's like, well, that's not how adults speak, because you haven't gone through the analysis stage of anything. You're just going to a conclusion. It's like a childlike statement, and there's a lot of children in like other countries look at America and they see how outraged we are at things. It's like none of it is adding up. So what kind of destroyed Hollywood is hearing him on Twitter, and you realize, oh, a lot of actors are really to the left of the bell curve, and even if that's not exactly accurate, it's they're just childish. Like, if I can't have it my way, I'm gonna throw a fit, throw my toys around the room, and that concept of, can adults have a discussion like reasonable adults, intelligent men used to do? No, that's kind of all out the window. So Mark Hamill is outraged by the attack on our ordered system of liberty. That was a terrible, terrible attack by an armed group of a million insurgents who took and held territory and deleted a bunch of people. No, that wasn't what happened. This is what happened. This kind of stuff is what happened. So this is 911 to them. So what do you call it when you pursue your political opponents? When you use the power of the state to pursue your political opponents to prevent them from taking power? Not only stuff like this, but the fact that politicians, the people on the left who are looking at this, and they don't see that what they're doing, when you take away judicial solutions, constitution protected redress of grievance, what happens when you take that away and when you pursue your political opponents using the power of the state? Oh, so you've become an authoritarian dictatorship, and you've just kind of quietly assumed power that way. Oh, well, that's just a Bolshevik revolution. It's just a Central American, South Asian communist takeover that has happened so many times in the past. What did Fidel Castro say after they took power? He goes, elections, por qué? Oh, Yeah, you got me in office. You guys don't need elections for the next 50 years. But what I mean is not just the Hollywood people, but the politicians on the left and the rhinos on the right, who seem incredibly short-sighted to do. I mean, the Democrats have done this before with the filibuster type of thing. I forget when they did that, something weird like that, where they do things that bites them in the tail, and like there's zero self-awareness. And so when you do stuff like this, it was January 6th was a group of unarmed peaceful protesters who were let in the building. And don't get me wrong, they're a bunch of idiots, but we're talking about people who trespassed. And you go, oh, well, but other people have also trespassed on government property. In fact, BLM and Antifa have been rioting for 2 or 3 years straight, literally deleting 4 dozen people, snuggling several women, and causing much damage, obviously. And they also tried to burn, police departments down. And the punishment for them has been a little bit light. So it seems a bit odd that that they're trying to make something about J6, and there's no there. Nobody's behind them. In fact, you read the comments on the YouTube videos where they cover J6, and everyone knows what's up. This is, even some people have mentioned Weimar a few times because it becomes more and more obvious. I mean, like, all this stuff is, you see gas prices, inflation, massive amounts of, I'll be careful here, I don't want to have to remake this video. I'll say a lot of Malum and Say acts going on around areas. People see all this stuff, like concerns for people in California are Malum and Say acts, gas inflation, homelessness. Much of America is just turning into open-air tent cities, and you see things like, oh, so you gave a few $1 billion to Ukraine, and I mean, not just Ukraine, but you give billions of dollars to all other countries also, and there's tent cities in America. It's like America's in deep trouble, and it feels like money's just going out the door, and it doesn't take a genius to say, oh, why would you spend money outside the country when money needs to be spent inside the country? It's obvious to even people who are not paying attention to politics that things are very, very deeply off track. Now, what accelerationism is, and that might have been a hot word for YouTube, is when you realize things are so bad that to continue to try to push back against them is just to take part in a game that they have set up, where if you accelerate things, you move to destroy the system to recreate a new system through peaceful, constitutionally protected activity. Not that anyone's listening to this video, but that, I mean, this model, the current structure, you can examine the current structure and go, oh yeah, this current structure is not working. Clearly, even people on the left have got to look at this and look at Biden and realize, oh, that was a terrible, terrible mistake. Was it really? Or was it just putting off something? Like, if Trump had another 4 years, you would have just been putting off something that would have happened anyway. So, and in fact, a lot of accelerationists either didn't vote or voted for Biden just to push things further along, to get someone who's completely incompetent in office. So the Democrats are running on this policy of taking away the Second Amendment. And they're showing like just how flat out insane they are, because people are looking at they go, oh, so the state wants to take away the Second Amendment, so the only people that have the Second Amendment are these bad actors, these criminals who commit these Malum and Say acts so very, very often in Detroit and Chicago. It's a daily occurrence. So you want them to have liberty devices, and then you want the police to be the only ones who are armed, which is weird, because you say on one hand defund the police, and on the other hand that police are all fashionable ones. And then on the other hand, you say you want them to be the ones who are armed, but then you realize, like, oh, so the police can't protect you because they'll drive to a situation, just sit around outside, because it turns out the police are incompetent. Because it's, as America kind of accelerates into a second world, into a third world situation. So none of the things the positions the left are running on make sense. You want us to give up liberty devices, and the people who are saying that are surrounded by armed guards. Literally, they have gated communities, all lily white gated communities surrounded by armed guards. Where a lot of people are kind of looking at the situation going, yeah, this concept of taking away guns from law-abiding people doesn't make any sense, because criminals are always going to get guns. There's 400 million in the country. There's more than one per person in America, and in the days of 3D printers, um, you just it's a done deal. You're never going to get rid of them. This is not like Australia or England, where those were not gun cultures. So people are looking at all these bad acts happening and quickly realizing, oh, yeah, we really want something to defend ourselves with, like even beyond the concept of tyranny, that kind of thing. But just the the roving street gangs, ultra violent criminals, and the people who are telling you to get rid of those guns are saying, oh, so you want criminals and the state police to have the guns, but you saw how the police responded to situations. So normies are looking at this and thinking, yeah, you really want to go in the other direction. Arm more people. And armed society is a polite society. And ultimately, you want to go in another direction as well. By that, I mean, like, separate from this federal model into a 50-state model, or into like a super state model where like-minded individuals can, based individuals, if that's your ideology, can get together. And because I'm hearing more and more, I don't want to say, I'm hearing more and more from people in the middle of the bell curve who are looking at, talking about separation. Because we have irreconcilable differences between the left and the right. The left wants this open border model, and they want the state and criminals to have guns. None of the things that the left are saying make sense to people who, a lot of other people were looking at it as like, yeah, we don't want to live in a low trust, high crime society, which is the only way that the left wing model can work is if you lived in a militarized police state. But then there's been a few examples lately where you look at the police and you realize, oh, the police are, there's a lot of very incompetent police. So what exactly are you running on? You want to get rid of the police? Now here, let me tell you how the left, the Bolsheviks, work. They want centralized power because it's easier to subvert control. So in a way, they probably want to get rid of the local state police and definitely get rid of elected sheriffs, because that is way too decentralized and puts the power in the people's hands to elect the sheriffs, who then runs his deputies. And if it was me, I'd get rid of the police in entirety and just go to an elected sheriff model. But, so what they want is, the globalists want is a federal police force, because it comes from on high. So it's one thing that they have to control. It's just one nexus point that they have to control. So decentralized control favors us. Oddly enough, the nationalists, the word's a bit slippery these days, where centralized control favors them, the globalists, because they only have to subvert that one point. Anyway, Mark Hamill, Star Wars. What an asshole. Thanks to the recent support on Subscribestar. You guys are the real heroes, helping me get my the things for the other channels arranged. Very cool, and I will see you guys all next episode.